Hi there. Welcome to my video. This is me. Hi, it's Ian. I'm going to be taking you through the current situation with WWE. So this is designed as a sort of primer for anybody coming in and watching Wrestlemania in 2019. As I record this video, last night was it's a Wednesday, so last night was the SmackDown show, which means we've got two more SmackDowns, two more Raws before WrestleMania 35, which is very exciting because there's some really cool stuff going on at the moment. These videos are not designed for anybody who actually sits down and watches Cultaholic or Wrestle Talk or Wrestle What Culture or whatever, because you'll know all this stuff. If you watch their videos, they do this much better than I do. This is designed for people, probably the vast majority of people that I personally know, who might want to watch the wrestling and don't really know anything about it. So with that in mind, I'm just going to go through, in this video, I'm going to go through how the WWE is set up, what it is, how it works, and what WrestleMania is, and how the shows sort of fit together. Okay, so the WWE is set up with 4 weekly television shows. Those shows there's kind of 2 lower tier shows and then 2 higher tier shows. At least, not necessarily in terms of quality, but in terms of the importance to the brand. Okay? So, the lower tier shows, the first one is NXT. Now, NXT is their developmental system. And what that means is their developmental system is it's basically all the wrestlers that are coming through the system. They're coming up, and eventually they'll sort of graduate up to one of the other shows. Now, with that, you would have thought, oh, well, it's the younger, less experienced wrestlers, people don't really know what they're doing, so it's going to be the worst show, right? Because there's going to be a lot more, there's going to be a lot less technically able and all that. You'd be wrong, because NXT is basically the best show that WWE come up with every week. It's really good. When people talk about what is the best pay-per-view per year that WWE puts out, it's actually the NXT pay-per-views that usually people say these are the best shows that the WWE comes up with. It's also filled with people who've come from the independent circuit. It's literally certainly not anymore. They just randomly take someone who looks good and then put them on NXT for them to learn how to wrestle. Generally speaking, a lot of the wrestlers on those shows are really supremely gifted wrestlers from the independent circuit or other promotions who are there in the WWE to sort of, they've been signed by the WWE and they're just being put through NXT to sort of build a persona within WWE and within so they can sort of move up to the roster above. So that's NXT. Then there are the 3 kind of, well, there's one sort of sub show and then the 2 main shows. There's the other show, sort of on the side, is a thing called 205 Live. 205 Live is the cruiserweight show. And what that means is it's usually smaller wrestlers who are sort of jumping around doing flippy stuff, often very acrobatic, often very high octane. And it's often regarded by people who watch it as a really good show, but unfortunately not very many people watch it. I will put my hand up and say I don't watch 205 Live. But a lot of people who like it say that it's actually pretty good now. That's on the WWE network, so it's on their kind of their streaming platform, which is a bit like a Netflix for WWE. So there's lots of programs on there, and 205 Live is one of those programs. The two main network shows are SmackDown and Raw. Now, wrestlers who wrestle on SmackDown do not wrestle on Raw, and vice versa. So it's basically two split squads of wrestlers, male and female, who are working. Some will be SmackDown wrestlers, some will be Raw wrestlers. There is some crossover. There are some events every year where they do sort of interact. But generally speaking, if you're a SmackDown wrestler, you'd be wrestling SmackDown people. If you're a Raw wrestler, you'd be wrestling Raw people. Simple. So all of the shows, all of the matches in WrestleMania, which is coming up in 2 weeks, they'll generally be, with a couple of exceptions, there will be a 205 Live Cruiserweight title match. That is confirmed. There will be a women's tag team match, which will probably have wrestlers from SmackDown and from Raw on it, and maybe also from NXT, although that's not confirmed. Other than that, it will be a SmackDown wrestler wrestling a SmackDown wrestler, or a Raw wrestler wrestling a Raw wrestler. There is one slight weird sort of thing, which is the main event, which will be which is the women's Raw title. So technically it's a Raw match, but it's got a couple of SmackDown wrestlers in it. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it. It's that's kind of a complex story. And when I talk about that match, I will talk about that. I will explain how it's all sort of come about. Every year, the WWE does. So the way WWE works is weekly. On Monday there will be Raw. On Tuesday there will be SmackDown, and then at the end of the month, or somewhere in the month, there will be a pay-per-view. In the year, there's 4 pay-per-view, big pay-per-views. WrestleMania is the biggest one. It's basically the Super Bowl of the WWE, probably the Super Bowl of wrestling, really. And then there's SummerSlam, which is kind of like a big show in the middle of the summer. It's kind of like a mini WrestleMania, pays off a lot of storylines and things like that. And then there's two more gimmicky type stuff. Survivor Series, which is basically that's in November, and that generally is sort of storyline. The storyline is SmackDown versus Raw. You won't need to worry about it. I will mention it when it comes to a couple of matches, but it's not really that relevant. The one which is relevant is the Royal Rumble, which was in January. The Royal Rumble is basically highlighted by 2 particular matches, which are called Royal Rumble matches. The way Royal Rumble matches work is that there are 2 people to start the match, there are 30 competitors, and a competitor gets added every 90 seconds. 90 seconds, maybe not. And those wrestlers go in and are the only way you can be eliminated from that match is to be thrown over the top rope. So if you're thrown over the top rope, your feet hit the floor, you are out. Okay? The winner of those, and the reason I'm explaining this, the winner of those 2 matches, there's a men's match and a women's match, they can challenge one of the 2 champions at WrestleMania. So the Raw men's title match this year is Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar, because Seth Rollins won the Royal Rumble, and I will go into that when I go into each individual storyline. I'll explain the Seth Rollins Brock Lesnar thing, and through shenanigans, lots and lots of shenanigans, and again I'll explain these shenanigans later. Becky Lynch has won the Women's Royal Rumble, and she will be in a triple threat match, which is a 3-way match between Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, who's a champion, and also Charlotte Flair, who's another competitor. So that's currently how it's all set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each one of the matches, do probably a little bit of video on each one of the matches, or prospective matches, because not everything is set in stone 2 weeks out yet. We don't know, but I can give you some definite indications, and I might do some update videos later on for things as they change. But generally speaking, quite a few matches have been set in stone, so I will discuss all of those matches in future videos. So you now know the setup. We're 2 weeks out, 2 more SmackDowns, 2 more Raws, 17 matches on the WrestleMania card. Yes, 17 matches. That's going to be a long old pay-per-view, this one, and it's really going to be a lot of fun. So if you're looking forward to it, watch some more of my videos, and I will explain some more stuff later. Okay, I'll speak to you soon.